Good morning, health class. This is our third and final lesson for the week. I hope you're doing well, and please remember to contact Miss Melissa and I if you have any questions about the lessons, okay? So we're going to continue on with our mental health focus, and today we're doing understanding mental health and mental illness. There's a lot of terminology that people don't understand, and we're hoping that this lesson will allow you to be able to understand what's the difference between a mental health problem, mental health distress, mental health illness, and then you guys at the end of the class, once you understand what those differences are, make a graphic organizer recognizing the differences between them. So here we go. Many confuse the terms mental health and mental illness, and often use terms from mental illness to describe normal life, such as I am traumatized, or for I am upset, or I'm depressed, for I'm unhappy, or I have OCD, for I'm tidy, right? We actually say that we have a mental illness when we really don't have it. First, I'd like you all to watch a video on your teen brain, and this kind of shows it's a short video that shows you guys different things. You can pause the video here if you'd like and open this up to watch it.
Welcome to Brain Upgrade 12-20.
This kind of gives you an explanation of what your brain does. Okay. And then watch that movie. Thank you for watching. And then we're going to look at the different definitions of what the difference between mental health and mental illness is. Okay, so the first thing is that we want to understand what words mean. Okay, so this down here, this is like the population, right? The largest part of the population has no distress, no problem, or disorder. Okay, it's pensive in thought. Okay, then there's mental distress. This could possibly be where a lot of our students are right now because of this e-learning, being locked in your house, not being able to do our normal teenage things where we like to go out with our friends and go hang out with people and chit chat and no dating, things like that. This can create mental distress. Is something that is not permanent. It is something that happens once in a while. And then it's like you're upset, annoyed, sad, unhappy, disappointed, disgusted, angry, bitter, blue, down, sorry, glum, forlorn, disconsolate, distressed, despondent, dejected, pessimistic, okay? This usually is something that happens, and it usually happens quickly, comes and goes, okay? We have a bad day, we're sad, right? Then there is, and then if this continues to be an issue and it becomes more deep, then it becomes a mental health problem, okay, which can be a little longer, okay? You're heartbroken, sorrowful, demoralized, grieving, mournful, despairing. Okay, this is a mental health problem. Like I mentioned you guys that I've been going to see a therapist for the past year because I'm having a mental health problem. I'm grieving, right? And I'm mournful and sorrowful. Okay? Then there is what we get to, and that's a fewer amount of the population. Then we get to mental disorder and illness. This is something that people can battle and struggle for their whole lives, okay? So this is kind of like a chronic illness. And this would be, for example, an example would be depression, okay? Can people be treated with it and do well? Yes. Just like people that have a chronic illness, that's with them forever. They can treat themselves like diabetes. You treat yourself, you take care of yourself, you eat right, and you'll be able to survive for a long time. Same thing with depression, okay? And the mental illness or mental disorder and illness go side to side. They're the same definition. Those are not in a very large percent of our population. So mental distress. So we're going to, like this, we're not going to talk about no mental distress because that's not the purpose of this class. So we're going to talk about mental distress. The brain's expected and usual response to stresses of everyday life, exams, relationships, disappointments, okay? This happens to everyone every day, right? I know teenagers that are like thrilled and so excited because they got asked on a date and then they failed a test and then they're sad and crying. And then later in the day, they get to go out with their best friends. So they're excited again. So we go back and forth, okay? Mental distress is a good thing because it teaches our bodies how to manage different emotions with different things. So it leads to adaptation and learning to cope if we deal with it well. It's often seen as negative instead of as helpful, which is not. It shouldn't be seen as a negative, right? We need to reframe it as a positive because excitement, not stress, right? And typically does not need treatment. Okay, now we're going to go from distress to a health problem. Okay. The brain's response to severe or persistent life problem, like death of a family member, severe bullying, a parent divorce, these things that can create a health problem, okay? It happens to everyone many times in their life. This isn't something that just, random people get. It's something that we all go through at one point or another, and then we get through it and move on. It shows that adaptation is difficult. Okay, and it may require additional help, such as a counselor or therapist, but you typically don't need any medication for it. Okay, it does not require treatment. When they're talking about treatment, they're talking about medicinal treatment. Okay, a mental disorder. Okay, a mental disorder or mental illness, right? The brain is not functioning as it's supposed to function, leading to significant and persistent problems in person's everyday life. It's caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors, okay? So if you have a family member that has been depressed, as a depressed person, you could have a genetic disposition to it, but maybe your environment doesn't create that, and so you will never become depressed. About 20% of people over their lifetime will have a mental disorder or mental illness where maybe they need to take medication. It must be diagnosed by a properly trained health professional, which is usually a psychiatrist, or, for example, in the case of like ADD, that would be considered, would be diagnosed by a psychologist and a neuroscientist or neurosurgeon. Okay, not neurosurgeon, neurologist. Requires scientifically invalid treatments provided by a trained health professional. Okay, the only way to get through this is going to be by getting help. Okay. Altogether, a person can be in one or more of these mental health states at the same time. For example, a person can have schizophrenia, a mental disorder, but their mother has recently died, so they had a mental health problem. And then they lost their car keys earlier today, so they had mental distress. And now they're hanging out with their friends and enjoying themselves. So we can deal with all of these things. That's the amazing part about being a human being. So we can deal with all these things at the same time. The brain. So the mental health is brain health, okay? It's what's going on inside with our synapses and everything. The presence of mental distress or a mental health problem is an example of your brain working to help you adapt to life's challenges and develop skills for future challenges, okay? Right now, we've got a challenge of like trying to learn online and trying to keep ourselves together, as well as probably helping out at home more and taking care of having more chores to do and stuff like that. The same way that your body has an immune system to help you adapt to infections and develop better immunity for future infections, okay? So we manage issues and then our brain stores them and says, okay, like I know I can get through this. So the next time the stress comes up, we can do it again. We can deal with it in a better way. Just like when we get a cold and we get a bit of an infection, then our body gets used to that and can fight it off in the future. Being healthy does not mean never experiencing problems, right? Negative emotions such as worry, fear, sadness are not necessarily a sign of mental illness. They are usually part of a mental healthy response to a mental stressor, such as a romantic disappointment. I got broken up with, and so I felt sad. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to have a mental illness. It's just that I'm responding to something that caused me pain. Okay. Just like negative physical symptoms such as fever, fatigue, and cough are not necessarily signs of physical illness, they're usually part of a healthy response to physical stressors such as a virus. Okay? So our brain and body. Life stress such as a romantic breakup, okay? What happens to our brain? Our brain responds with negative feelings, sad or worried, and behaviors such as crying or loss of appetite. Then your brain adapts and you learn how to cope with it. Now you are stronger in case it happens again. Most people, the first person we date or the first person that we like is not going to be the person we end up marrying. So you're going to learn from every time you date and get disappointed by it or sad by it, you're going to learn to cope with it in a better way. And eventually you'll be able to cope with it just fine. And usually, but that's when you'll find someone that you actually are ready to settle down with and have a long, significant relationship with. And then life stress. This is like our physical body. So we might have a viral infection. Our body responds with increasing temperature, a fever, and a negative physical symptoms such as aching muscles and fatigue. Your immune system fights off the virus, and now you're stronger in case it comes back. So you can see our mental health and our physical health have the same type of functioning to keep us healthy and to keep fighting and becoming stronger the older we get. Okay, so brain and body are connected, right? So usually when we have some sort of mental distress, we also have a physical response to it. So we might have sadness, worry, anxiety, unhappiness, disappointment, embarrassment, and anger. And this could be what happens in our bodies. Our muscles tense up, we get a headache because we've been so worried. Anxiety might put your stomach in a knot and you can't eat very much and and then unhappiness, you flush, your face gets red. Disappointment, get a tingling feeling in your fingers and your toes. Embarrassment, difficult breathing, or you also could get flushed too, get red. And then anger, your heart pounding, okay? So what is the brain? The brain is the most complex organ in the body, the master control center, right, of everything. It is considered to be the most complex thing known, okay, in the world, okay, the most complex organ. The brain is made up of many different cells called neurons, as well as other cells that support these neurons. Neurons are arranged in a very complex networks called circuits, right? And that's what I was talking about, our synapses between our neurons, the connections when we have a mental disorder or a mental illness is there's a break or there's a problem with those connections, okay? They control things like movement, thinking. Neurons communicate using chemical messengers, okay? Our brain develops and changes over our entire life, right? You guys have learned in FCD that the reason why it's good to postpone drinking alcohol is because your brains are still like growing and learning up until about the age of 20. So if you can postpone drinking regularly or drinking at all, then you can make sure that your brain gets fully developed and well, okay? So what does the brain do? Almost everything, right? Okay, so there's the thinking, the cognition, okay? So this includes all of our internal mental processes and functions, right? Our cognition, planning, calculating, self-awareness. You can see all of them in here, okay? Self-awareness, sequencing, judgment, comprehension, contemplation, reasoning, decoding symbols, focusing, paying attention, memory. And remember, all of these are kind of, they are strengthened at different times of our lives, okay? Functions of the brain, perception or sensing, okay? So we can also, the ability to use our five senses to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, that all happens in our brain, right? Frontal lobe. Then the emotion or feeling, right? That comes from all of the emotions that we can express, right? The ability to experience, label, and describe and express feelings, joy, anger, sadness, hope, consternation, demoralization, happiness, sadness, contentment, shame, loneliness, guilt, frustration, resentment, serenity, and annoyance, right? We have so many different feelings that we have, okay? Functions of the brain, signaling. We can signal being responsible and reacting to the environment, okay? So, like when someone talks about having a, what's it called? Your adrenaline coming out, right? That is your body saying danger. So, danger. We sense something, we internalize it, we have a heightened awareness, our heart rate goes up, we're alert, we're perception or attention, and then we're prepared to flee so we can be safe and protected, right? Okay. And when you get into this situation, you really don't know how you're going to react, right? The physical part of your brain control, okay? Our physical functions are under control of our brain, right? All of our respiratory system, right? Breathing, going into our lungs, getting all of the oxygen out into the veins through the heart. The circulatory system, right? The veins, our heart, nervous system, our feelings, okay? All of our senses that we have. Genitourinary system, digestive system, musculoskeletal system, they're all part of it, okay? Then we've got the endocrine and immune system, okay? The brain controls and releases hormones to regulate many different kinds of body processes, including growth, sexual development, cell repair, etc., right? Our body tells us when we're supposed to go through puberty. Our body tells us when we're supposed to, if women for menstruation, stuff like that. The brain controls many aspects of your immune system, and your immune system also impacts your brain, okay? When it talks about your immune system impacting your brain, is that your brain signals when you need to fight off an infection or something like that, right? So behavior, okay? Our brains tell us how to do social interactions, sexual activity, acts of kindness, acts of aggression, goal-directed activities, relaxation activities. Our brain tells us how to behave, okay? The thing is that our brain connects all of these things all together. That's why human beings are such an interesting species. Although we often talk about each of the brain functions separately, they're all interconnected, right? Remember, you cannot separate your brain from the body, and the brain and the body are one, right? So it's not possible to separate mental health from physical health. What is good for your brain will be good for your body and vice versa. Okay? Hope that was clear about our brain and functioning, okay? Now that you've watched the movie, hopefully you understand now what mental health is, what a mental health problem is, and what mental illness is. In Classroom, I've posted mental health definitions. You guys are going to read this. Okay, I have this to give you the definitions again. Mental distress versus mental health problem versus mental illness. So you're going to need those three things. 1, mental health problem. 2, mental illness. Yeah, mental health problem, mental illness, okay? And to show me the difference between them, I want to give me specific examples, please, okay? And you're going to turn that in to Classroom, okay? I hope you guys had a great week. We only have 1 more week till spring break, and then hopefully we'll get to go back to school after spring break. Well, we hope all are well, and have a great day, and I hope you guys are staying healthy at home. Don't forget to exercise, take your breaks, eat healthy, and all of those great and fabulous things. Thank you.